it's on tonight. Throw that thing from left, right, side to side. Yeah. All my friends are here. Play my favorite song right on top. Yeah. And we never stop. Music bumping, we just keep on rolling. Yeah. No, we never stop. Shake, shake, shake your honey till the morning. Let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on, now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on, now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Yeah, I said I wanna see you slide, slide, slide. I said I wanna see you shine, shine, shine. Oh, it's on tonight. Throw that thing from left, right, side to side. Yeah. All my friends are here. Play my favorite song right on time. Ooh, and we never stop. Music pumping, we just keep on rolling. No, we never stop. Shake, shake, shake your honey till the morning. Oh, let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on, now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on, now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Yeah, I said I wanna see you slide, slide, slide. Yeah, come on now, now, now. I said I wanna see you shine, shine, shine. I wanna see ya. I wanna see you. So let me hear you sigh. I said I wanna see you slide, slide, slide.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back one last time to BTS Pro Series 12. We have come now to the end. Absolute end. There can be no more game after this one. It is game 5 of our best of 5. And, well, it all comes down to one last game. All the fighting, all the back and forth we've seen in this series, ET. You have one match now to take everything you have learned, everything you have put into the previous 4 games, and just condense it down into one draft to win it all.
And will you be the victor? Will you be the loser? Will you get the prestige? Do you just want to go to bed? Very different motivations from every player in our lobby. Probably
Especially
a mix of
Merlin.
everything. Yeah, especially Merlin. Poor
6:30 in the morning, well, 6:45 now for him, so he would like to sleep, but I'm sure he'd like to go to sleep a winner at this point, right? So, oh, see what we got in the openings. That's a Primal Beast coming out for SG, a hero we have not gotten to see in several hours, ET, but they will grab it. They'll grab the Morphling to follow it up. 5-Ret, meanwhile, opening with AB1s, Jakiro, and the Faceless Void.
And that was quick. And Yuma gets to play his Morphling. Let's go. Going into very different directions here already. Everybody gets their signature hero. They ban out the AA, even though they've already got a 5 position, because you put some respect on that Ancient Apparition's name.
Yeah.
And we've got a game in front of us.
Well, it is a bit more interesting now. Some heroes coming out that have been a little, I guess, not absent entirely, but we didn't get to see them for a while, right? The Primal Beast was, I think, back in the previous series, and DNM played Faceless back in, I want to say, game 1 at this point, so it had been sort of put away or banned for a little bit here, but Gonna bust it out again, but now on the 5-rat side, ET. I mean, you're looking at the bans, but this Morphling is going to Yuma. There's really no alternative, and I guess now you have to think, do we bank on this being an Oscar Primal Beast, or do they try and swing it into a 4 position? Feels like really SG hadn't been doing that previously, so...
Yeah, it's probably just going to be their offlaner, so it's just them picking up 2 cores now and then 2 supports in the next phase. But this is also where in the final game of a best of 5, you're in a best of 1 effectively now. You have to do everything in your power to actually win. It's also where finally you get to take everything that you've learned up until this point from the series and put it into effect in these bans. It's why the axe is taken away. It's why the Rubik gets banned out. It's where everybody starts to really hone in on each other's weaknesses and their greatest strengths. And then we see whether or not you're really going to be able to win this best of 1. Because at the end of the day, 5-rat, they've got last pick. Maybe they do something dirty. Maybe they look for something absolutely nasty coming to the final phase. But that's where SG, they've got to keep their options open. They can't let themselves get stuck in these lanes. They got to get out of their own heads maybe a little bit as well with how that last game ended up going. But that's where it is effectively a blank slate. Anybody's game at this point.
I do like seeing the axe ban again, not because I really think that it's a great ban or anything like that. It's just they still have a little bit of that wariness after what Speed did to them earlier in the series. So hero has to be taken away. 5-rat, meanwhile, really looking at LTH right now, right? Rubik first. Take the Hoodwink out here as well. Of course, at this point, LTH could always just play something kind of more standard at this point. That's kind of the purpose of some of those earlier picks. Put him on some of those other heroes so that 5-rat now here in Game 5 feel the need to ban it, and you might just have a more conventional hero fall to you anyway.
Yeah, and that's also where, well, you ask yourselves, do we lean on what has been more impactful for us? Because I was going to say, are they just going to simply pick up the Skyreth Mage for 5-rat coming out of this next phase? Or do we see them dip back in and Merlin perhaps gets his Mirana again? You know, it's where everything starts to change just a little bit more. And you want to see that respect. You want to see those previous heroes banned out because you've got an understanding of what your opponent really needs when it comes to the draft. But that's where 5-rat with last pick will always have the advantage. And simply, lead with Merlin's hero, keep things pretty quiet. Of course, you would something that can maybe counter out the Morphling a little bit more here. It's why SG actually end up banning out the Skyreth Mage because of the, I think, very advantageous matchup against him. But that's where I think still you keep the entire slate very blank. You just make sure there's no idea what's going on. And all the way back from game 1, we reach out of the pits. We realize, okay, maybe it's time to ban the Omni. You reach back and you get that Omni Knight taken out. Love it.
Well, really looking at the supports at this point with the Omni ban, but as you said, it's still just kind of a dangerous hero in terms of how much more durability that he can add to your lineup. So it's got to go. 5-rat Force Staff after the bans will simply pick up the Merlin Mirana again.
Yeah, and now this is where, unfortunately for SG, your double supports probably come up here, even though I would say, you know, maybe there's a Bat Rider to squeeze in here or there, but feel like there's no way you tempt fate versus Kits and giving him a Queen of Pain. This is where you can't afford any lane counters coming into the best of 1, because all it takes is one person to have a bad game, and that could be you getting second place. It's where, even though these guys are tired, even though they're still up against the walls, they can't let those nerves get to them, and they can't afford to make those draft errors, because all it takes is one aspect of your draft to start falling apart, and then, well, that's it. And then you lose, and then, you know, you're the team to cry at the end of the day after such a long and close best of 5 series. You never want to be that team, but somebody has to, and we'll have to see, because really think for SG here, back-to-back support doesn't need to be hard, just something that's going to enable the Primal Beast in lane, and also give your Morphling maybe some more space and time. I feel like a part of me thinks that maybe they turn around and just pick up like an Ogre at this point, just something to body block those arrows.
Oh, see, they're taking a lot of time thinking this one over, so... Oh, wonder if they've got something that we haven't seen before, if they're going to bust out anything new, or we're going to be seeing some familiar faces here as the pick comes in, and it is going to be the Dark Willow, which is a hero that we did technically see earlier today. Still not the most exciting one in the world, ET, but it does give you a little bit of everything, right? You've got some lockdown, you've got a little bit of damage. It's certainly useful, but it's not flashy.
Yeah. And this is also where I would really like if SG picked Venge, honestly. I think that would be a great pick.
Hmm.
It's where I think they need to make this chrono more and more difficult to actually get into. And that's a Dawnbreaker. Okay. I kind of like what you're putting down here. Now, looking at the draft, though, we do have some questions for sure. It feels like, are you really just going to slam and put a Dawnbreaker in your mid lane? No, probably not. Probably can't be that. But at the same time, probably should just be Prada's hero, I imagine. I think Prada Dawnbreaker is kind of a classic at this point. And then hope that that's going to be your body blocker in lane. Maybe not as simple as the Ogre, but again, make these Chronos as difficult to actually enter as possible. That's certainly one way to counter out DNM. Even though I do think the swap would have been pretty useful, considering that last game, large reason why the Miran and Jakiro keep on feeling so effective is because SG supports just aren't getting money for those force staffs, and Dawn doesn't really help you with that at all. It's something to play with.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some uses. It's got some lockdown and utility. You know, you're never really going to do too much damage with Prada taking it to the position 5 role, but that's not really what you're hoping for. So we'll see if the lockdown makes up for it. In the meantime, if you're 5 rat, well, at this point, ET, what do you think? Should they be looking for a speed hero here, or do they pick, I guess, blindly into the mid matchup?
Yeah, it's where they're spending a lot of reserve time mainly to ask themselves, okay, Kits, coming into the next 4 bans here, do we just want to press our luck and then give you a matchup that you should be fine with, but then we have to kind of fudge things.
Whoa.
And that's a first in the tournament right there. That is a Sand King, a King of the Sand. And Sand King Mirana, I mean, you can't ask for a more classic lane than that. Okay, we need somebody who's just going to blink, go in, have some burst damage, great kill potential in the side lanes, and you're kind of casual playmaker who's going to make things happen on the map while your Faceless Void doesn't have chrono. I mean, Sand King's bad, but does fulfill the role that 5 Rat are going to have needed to be filled. So really, situationally, looks great, looks fun, looks really easy to play as well. So maybe just saying, oh, I'm sick of playing all these same, 5, 6 heroes. Give me the Sand King.
Yeah, you're more likely to see Sand King pop up in an ability arena match than you are in an actual professional game. But 5 Rat pull the trigger on it. It is an interesting choice. We'll have to see if Speed has some sort of tech for it, or if it's just as simple as we want Sand King Mirana. But I really kind of get the feeling here, ET, in Game 5, there's a very specific plan for this. You don't just take this for its own sake for the first time in the tournament in the final game of the Grand Finals, right?
Probably not, but that's also where they did kind of do a 360 on the Mirana, so, who knows? Maybe it's just their hero's time to shine, but we'll also have to see if this is your tried and true counter versus the Morphling, and of course, now Yuma is frothing at the mouth because he has so many great morph targets in this game. He actually can just open up so many team fights if you're not careful. And even though SG, it looks like they might not have the most reliable of stuns, it really is just a Primal Beast. Well, that's where now Yuma has quite the great target in the Sand King, where, well, okay, maybe we have Burrow Strike now to play with, but still something to have to be very careful of. Even though I think most of these morphs, especially once the Axe is done, should probably land on the Faceless Void. We'll see, because even though I like what 5 Red are doing, I like that the Sand King might be a slightly niche counter versus the Morphling. It is still Yuma Morphling, and you still have to be so cautious every stage of the game here, because in that down position carry matchup, your Faceless Void could just straight up lose, and they go for Ember Spirit. Okay, KXY Classic.
Yep, he's going to be feeling pretty comfortable on the Ember, and I mean, this is pretty good, right? When in doubt, final game of the series, Yuma Morphling, KXY Ember. The other side, ooh, the Kit's Shadow Fiend.
And they get the counter pick, and that's why you can't 23 pick Ember Spirit. And we'll have to see, because KXY, I believe in him. I believe in his ability to schmoove on the lane, but versus Kits, I mean, the last time we saw Kits Shadow Fiend, it was a 21-minute victory for them, where they were out of the lobby as fast as they got into it, versus what was one of the best teams in the tournament, that being Ravens. So Will 5-Rat just do it? Will Kits just make this game nasty? I mean, kind of feels like we've already been dragged down into that point, but that's that misstep where KXY just looking for the comfort, maybe not thinking about that hero, might just get slapped with it.
Hmm. And yeah, I mean, I sincerely doubt we're going to have anything even approaching the kind of speed that we saw the last time around, because ET, that's just not been the nature of this series or of these two teams. This has been a slugfest, right? It's just been long, hard, endurance-based matches, the equivalent of what the Dota version of trench warfare. Everyone's dirty, everyone's bloody, nobody's making much progress until eventually we just decide somebody wins.
Yeah, and usually Yuma or DNM are the ones that are like, yeah, I've had enough of it. I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. Let me just kill everything real quick. But that's where I think both these carries, there's a lot to ask for, though, especially out of DNM. Of course, you've got Speed now running around, making some plays happen with his Sand King, but that's where, come down to brass tacks, DNM is a lot of that setup. He is a very crucial member of his team. He's put in that hot seat yet again. Just hope that he's able to deliver. And then, of course, we'll have to see if he can deliver when he's getting Aghanim Sceptered by that Morphling. He's getting his attack speed. He's getting everything stolen away from him. And then, of course, the Morphling eventually just simply doesn't die in Chronosphere once you get the Ag Shard. But we'll have to see, because I think we've got a pretty great game in front of us.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be good one way or the other. It's game 5 of a best of 5, so you have the built-in just sort of tension and stakes that this is the absolute last game, last opportunity for these two squads. Try and pull this out and claim that Pro Series 12 championship title. Just now realized something as well with this Sand King set that kind of bugs me. Where are his eyes?
Oh, they're there.
Are they? Are you sure?
They're there.
I'm looking at it too long. It's making me uncomfortable.
He's a subterranean creature. What do creatures that... if you're under the ground, why do you need eyes, you know? Ever see a mole before?
Don't try to use actual facts and logic right now. It's been a long day. My brain can't do that.
Yeah, lax and Fodgic. Lax and Fodgic. But we'll have to see what he's actually able to do here on the Sand King. Got a lot to live up to, I think, and without a stellar performance here, he's that type of offlaner that usually we talk about with the Centaur, where he cannot really exit the lane until he gets his Blink Dagger. You're forced to rotate too early. Hero ends up looking pretty pathetic, just ends up turning from a pretty strong offlaner into simply a bug that needs to be squashed, but we'll see. This goes up the Burrow Strike. You're setting up here. Both sides having this ward on the high ground, so Yuma places a sentry, so this is actually going to be a race maybe for the D ward here, but that's where Merlin's holding on to his own sentry. You know, nice little fight kind of breaking out here, but we'll see. Looks like they will just go even, but actually no. 5-Rat in position.
Okay. 3 of the 4. Somebody's gonna come take care of that ward. There we go. Prada says, now that the coast is clear, give me my 101 gold, excuse me. Can't forget that extra 1 gold that he gets, but there we go. That's gonna start off the lane, of course. 5-Rat, that wasn't the only place they dropped the ward. They already blocked off the camp here, so if Prada's looking for the pulls, it's just not gonna be available. Of course, Speed, well, oh, hold on. Free fired arrow connects. Speed's gonna go in with the burrow, and Prada won't be in any danger of being brought down, but if you could force his salve onto him and not the Morphling here, especially this early on, would be a nice play, but Prada's got so many tangos, I think he's going to hold off using that salve.
Yeah, and stroke of luck and a nice little bit of damage onto the Dawnbreaker, but as long as you block those arrows, you start to get contested for those range creep denies, the levels don't come nearly as quickly, and then suddenly this lane ends up just a little bit harder for you to leave your Sand King in, because Merlin is going to want to rotate out eventually. But unblock the small camp, make sure that that large camp is still blocked, and Prada will continue to make the trades. And Yuma, okay,
Wow.
actually gets level 2 a little bit earlier and presses forward, but then you do have to make the retreat.
Merlin gets beat up a little bit, but he came to lane with 2 full stacks of tangos himself, so just going to really walk off this damage, but surprising that Yuma hits level 2 that early. I mean, you look at Speed, he's only halfway to that mark, so Morphling already out to a little bit of an advantage there, just cutting through those creeps as quickly as he can, and, well, when the Sand King reaches level 2, I don't really know how much changes here, right? The fact that Yuma's out in front is certainly a nice move on the SG side.
It definitely is. I'm just watching mid, seeing if this is going to be the bully ball, if it really should be, but Kits is already doing a really nice job fighting for denies, forcing KXY to go for last hits with the Sleight of Fist. Already kind of difficult with how low level it is. And KXY went for the 2 points in Flame Guard, because of course you need it. It forces level 3 or level 2 raises to actually take all 3 before they get popped, but that's where as soon as this lane, and especially Kits gets level 5, well, everything really starts to fall apart for the Ember.
He is doing quite nicely here on the Shadow Fiend so far, so looking pretty good in KXY. I don't know. Just gotta do your best with what you're given here. It's not gonna be easy, but just don't get sort of entirely beat, right? Try and play, I guess for the draw, that's not really KXY's style, ET, but the alternative is letting Kits just completely dominate you.
Yep, gotta play that patience game. Wait for your levels, and then hope for a mistake. Because supports, they can certainly change any lane in Dota, but have to see. Come back to that lane.
Down bot, how's DNM doing? 16-3, looking pretty good. Oscar, oh, not even really an early attempt here. He's just going to kind of wait on his levels, which, fair enough, right? I mean, this combo, if he tries to make it, does still cost him a little bit of mana, so they don't have the greatest setup in the world with LTH either. If he goes for the Curse Crown, DNM can just kind of time walk far enough away where they won't follow, and I guess he could go onto AB1 if he steps too far forward, but the Jakiro's not realistically gonna get that far forward. Oh, unless they're going for a kill like this. They are hitting up Oscar quite a bit. Not enough to threaten him, but just enough to push him back.
Yeah, just being annoying. The wave does continue to push forward and forward, though. Could be an opportunity onto the Jakiro if it's just a little bit too cocky when it comes to fighting for these denies, but Oscar, with the boots, can definitely be a little bit more aggressive, but that's where probably we're gonna have to wait till level 4 before we can see him just immediately pounce onto AB1.
It's playing the waiting game. Patience across the board here, and makes sense, right? We've fought through 4 games already in this series. Now is not the time for anyone to get, well, overly excited, right? If you rush in, likely to make some sort of mistake, and it's only going to take a few, or a few more than your opponent, I suppose, is probably more apt, but what you could end up paying is Oscar is going to try and go in now. It's a nice bit of damage with the trample, but he's getting hit up quite a bit himself. Bash from DNM is going to connect. Time walks his way forward, and Oscar is going to go down. There's your first blood. LTH now slowed by the dual breath, and DNM's looking for the double. Does he want to keep chasing? No.
No, but took so much damage there. Just ended up being impossible for the Primal Beast. Didn't find a good time to uproar either. Just didn't have that much armor to play with. And of course, could see him just immediately Primal Beast up the lane and then go for that return kill, but that's where they just strike at the right time.
There's your first blood. It's into the Faceless Void's hands as well, as he... Oh, time walks out of Curse Crown. So, not really able to get any lockdown onto him. Meanwhile, back up top, Speed... He got pressured up a little bit here, ET, but he's got his ring of health, his soul ring is going to be finished up in just a little bit here too, so Speed is going to be feeling pretty comfortable, and between this and the Undying, Speed is really bringing that soul ring back on just about everybody he's playing.
Yeah, it makes sense, you know, infinite mana, you got a ring of health, it gives you a lot of the stats that you do want, but where supports, they rotate it out. 5 seconds for the 6-minute rune, but that's where if you're Prada, you're getting bullied off by Merlin, and Merlin might even just look to track this down, but that's where on the other side, AB1 in a 2v1.
First Crown will stun, but he got far enough back. And he did take the illusion rune away from KXY there as well, so good rotations from the supports, not really going to help in terms of a kill, but you feel like if KXY isn't the one getting this rune, it's an advantage for Kits.
Oh, Kits always doing everything and keeping the card alive as well. And Fairy Fire gets popped out of fear, but your mid tower just took half of his HP. You've doubled him up in both last hits and denies. You actually have more denies than he has last hits.
Yikes.
This is just the matchup. Can't do much if you're KXY. Very unfortunate.
LTH makes his way over mid to try and soak up some experience, but once they see him there, well, DNM knows Oscar's down here by himself, but he's so far under the tower. Realistically speaking, they can't do much. There's no chrono up yet either, so just kind of got to let this happen. Let LTH do his thing, but they are bringing over Merlin here, and Kits can't set this up in any possible way, but you know, if there's a free-fired arrow in there, maybe it takes someone by surprise, but now Merlin is going to get spotted by Prada, so the element of surprise is gone. LTH, though, is still here. Oh, no, now he's spotted out. There's going to be the arrow. Kits has free raises, and that's... Oh, that's unfortunate. LTH thought he was being sneaky, but they had vision on him pretty much the whole way through.
Yeah, that's really the big concern. Do you bring heroes mid to try and help your Ember Spirit? Well, yeah, you kind of feel like you have to, but what are you leaving behind? You're leaving a Faceless Void versus a Primal Beast. You're leaving a Sand King versus a Morphling. You end up not finding those shutouts that you probably could. It's that aspect of turning 1-1 lane into the rest of the game here. As
Speed, they see you. Speed, they see you.
Got the wave.
Okay.
On the run.
Merlin's got the arrow in. He's going to actually get pushed a little bit further forward by that hit from Yuma, but I don't think it matters. He should still die. Maybe not. It's still not enough damage. Okay. Well, Speed's greed does not hurt him. AB1, okay. He is going to get picked off there as KXY does find his first kill of the game, but I think you're really okay with that. It's unfortunate for 5-Rat that it's KXY who picks up that kill, but this is what the Ember's going to do. He hits 6, he's going to go looking for kills, and if he only is killing off the Jakiro repeatedly, then you can work with that.
Yeah, kind of the losers of the lanes syncing up and then trying to make some plays happen. You kind of have to bond together at this point and then hope it's going to be enough here, because unfortunately for Oscar, even though he can get kills onto supports pretty easily, now DNM does not really care. He's just going to sit here, farm, wait until somebody else kicks him out, but that is not the Primal Beast.
Merlin makes another rotation towards the middle lane. Prada sees him, though, so this arrow should not hit onto anything. Okay, it hits LTH, but that's not really going to matter too much. Merlin, though, okay. He tries to leap out, but the Starbreaker actually catches him mid-leap, so he does fall. And SG tied up at 2-2, and the supports are really starting to get more and more involved in this middle lane.
So LTH and Prada, right place, right time. Good punish as well. Unfortunately, KXY still struggling, but he has max Flame Guard build and nice little stack that he's going to be able to farm up here, you know? Something for the Ember Spirit, anything for the Ember Spirit to make his life easier, and we'll farm up a ton of those tier 1s.
Yep, he's going to keep the pig pull for himself. Linking up perhaps with Oscar here as they're trying to move into the river. And oh, Merlin, yeah, that's a lot of heroes. Time to go. And the oh man, the DD rune actually spawned up to the top anyway. So 4 heroes go for the rune, none of them get it. Now you got a DD Shadow Fiend to potentially deal with if Kits wants to make a move. His TP's up, but with Merlin sticking around, they could try and just keep the play local to this middle lane, but there's no one here to actually hit.
Yeah, just ends up being a slight whiff, but this is where you just have a support sapping XP mid, hoping to get their level 6 soon, while the Ember Spirit jungles up as much as he humanly can, so that way he can find some item timing in this game. But back mid, it's the tier 1, DD gets popped, you don't have Glyph, and this is a free tower.
Well, if nobody's going to show up mid to get ganked, then just claim the objective and go on about your business. This Kits, oh, what's he working towards here? Looking for the Dragon Lance as that sort of first big item, and well, more range, more stats. Already makes the Shadow Fiend, or the Shadow Fiend is already pretty dangerous. It makes him even more so. His speed, speaking of danger, well, a little bit caught there. He had dealt with Yuma and he had dealt with Prada in sort of 1v1s, but 2v1 is a little bit more than he can handle.
Yeah, and it's a nice play from Yuma. Just becomes the Sand King, waveforms in, Burrow strikes him, and takes him down pretty darn easily. But that's the lane that we knew was going to go well for SG. It's everywhere else that is still just a little bit in shambles, but It's not like DNM is taking his one lane and then coming up to you. If you were seeing Yuma in a Chronosphere and dying like that, then maybe we'd have a few more problems. But until that happens, we're just kind of stuck sitting in our one lanes. So the Morphling will continue to excel. The Ember and the Primal might suffer a little bit, but we'll have to see. Because now, Kits isn't going to keep the lane static. He's just going to push it in, then start moving around. This is where there might be a punish top, though. Waiting for the rune. Oscar smoked.
Oh, he's not able to get off that ult, but here comes the Solar Guardian. That is going to help a little bit, but not enough. Kits and Merlin both dead. Here comes DNM, though, dropping the Chrono, but does he have the damage? He does if the Macro Pyre comes into play. LTH is going to go down. Oscar dropping low as well. Can they finish him? I don't think that they can here, as DNM is just going to get rooted in place by the Searing Chains, and... Okay. If you're SG, you handle that quite nicely, and... Well, I'm actually kind of surprised there that... Well, they really just looked to fight. I guess they didn't realize how many heroes were coming in. The Solar Guardian on top makes it so that at that point, Kits really just can't run anyway, so... Yeah, you're caught. The Pulverize is going to get you, or the Solar Guardian is going to get you, or the right-click damage is going to get you, so you're kind of just dead either way.
Yeah, and that's something that SG can abuse quite heavily, is just the Ember Spirit plus Solar Guardian, just having another hero instantly on top of you. It's where they do have a pretty strong gank squad. And now, of course, DNM using his ulti is just going to be mode farm, but they make these trades happen across, and then we'll have to see if Yuma can get his own tower, but seems like they're just going to uplift the Sand King, say, okay, you're going to go bottom, but Speed is actually looking for the kill here. He has Blink. He even slots into Smoke right now in case the Morphling is already rotated back into the triangle, but we'll have to see. Speed's going to show himself here, and if they're paying attention, they will just ping out the Blink Dagger, but they want him instead.
Okay, there's the jump. Trying to lock him down. Maybe one. He's trying to provide some assistance here, but look at the numbers that they're bringing. There is a TP, though, from the Shadow Fiend, so Kits, he's going to try and channel out the Requiem. Does manage to connect. It's going to cancel the Pulverize, but they need the kills. They need Yuma. They do manage to find him. But now, well, now they want a little bit more, but the Terrorize is going to force Kits to sort of take a few moments before he can attack. Does still get onto LTH, but I think that buys time for other heroes to get away. Prada's out. Oscar should be making it home, too. But really... You're okay with that. Yeah, speed goes down. That's a bit unfortunate, but you bait in a Yuma kill, and that's really the most valuable kill I think you could find right now.
Yep, so the Morphling a little bit more, a fight where DNM, who doesn't have Chrono, doesn't want to get involved, the tower stays alive as well, and you didn't use Epicenter. So Speed immediately looked for his smoke play, and I feel like now with Chrono up in 20 seconds, can only imagine that 5 Red are going to look for the fight towards bottom. Do have to be careful, because SG do have Solar Guardian, and they will just run it right back at you. This is where Kits as well, not having the Requiem, does mean that he's going to be a much less important team fighting hero in this next engagement, but... Okay, they start to break. The Sand King is behind, though. They're very far away from this Tier 1 tower. Might not be here in time to help the SF.
Yeah, this is a little bit too broken. The Pulverize comes in, the arrow will cancel it. DNM, though, drops the Chrono, but they still find the kill. Kits goes down. Can DNM get some sort of return play? He gets one onto Prada. Oscar is not going to make it out of here either, so... Well... Okay. 2 for 1, but... ET, I feel like that play still could have happened. You could have just waited a little bit longer to send in Kits, and maybe he doesn't get picked off.
Yeah. Just, I think 5 Red wanted to go in 2 different directions. They were eyeing up the Morphling pick in the mid lane because they saw him in the river, but then you get dove under your tower, so your heroes that are smoked end up having to reactively TP, and it becomes very obvious to SG that they were smoked up until that point, but no, it's not clean, it's not pretty, and it's a reason why it doesn't really shift too much of that gold lead, because it isn't a very clean play, but still, getting the SF kill is very important.
Kits is about to run into Prada here. Is this a kill he can just get? Not really, but the arrow is flying if it connects, which it won't. Although, Prada has no TP, so he's actually still just stuck here, and he's going to run into DNM. Well, maybe you would have been better off just dying to the Shadow Fiend at the start, because you just give the gold over to another core anyway.
Yeah, the MMO was like, oh, thank you. Oh, that's pretty nice of you. But actually... Speed back in the aggressive, trying to take control of these areas. AB1 immediately is back onto those high grounds, just playing for it, but they are trying to be obnoxious here. And with that, I think Speed got clipped there. I think SG are aware that the smoke is coming in. Yep, That's the immediate scan, and now your play is dead.
5 Rat unfortunately don't know that yet, so they're still looking. They're not going to find anything. No, they're really not going to find anything. There isn't even an objective for them to really turn towards either, because they'd have to go for tier 2s at this point, so kind of a busted play. They'll give up on it once the smoke wears off, and oh, somebody should just take that middle lane of farm. Speed. He's starting to get close to Boots of Travel here, right? So would not take him more than really a minute or two to farm that up, but they are still looking for a fight. They get onto Prada. Yuma's close by, but this is just too much. Even if he goes in now, Prada's already dead.
Yeah, can't make that trade. There is a simultaneous smoke on the other side, though. They're trying to at least put pressure onto DNM, but that's not really going to become anything either, and 5 Rat are still finding some of these advantageous trades. There is, however, of course, the Solar Guardian on deck here, so if they do find an engagement in the next, 10 seconds or so, then we get a fight, but oh, Yuma!
Speed's in.
Arrowed?
Yep.
Oh no.
Arrow is in. Epicenter's there. Solar Guardian is not gonna matter. Oscar is charging through, though, with the Onslaught, so maybe they can get 1 or 2 kills in exchange. As Kits is very low, but he does get the Requiem off. He's going to turn. Does he take down Oscar? Yes, he does. Now he turns to fight up against KXY. They need the Burrow Strike, though, and Kits, well, he's actually just trying to get away at this point. Can Prada catch up to him? He's got Starbreaker, but Kits just kind of running his opponent around the tree. And how in the world does that work?
Oh, and Prada's kicking himself for that one, because, yeah, the SF escapes, definitely a level of frustration there, and even then, it's just the slight ward that is barely out of sentry range that ends up killing Yuma at the beginning of that fight that gives Speed the jump, and then diving, or trying to dive in front of the arrow to make sure the morphing doesn't go down so fast. It just ends up being a completely mis-choreographed fight. Now, they're even going to miss on the ward, because Yuma has no idea how he just died, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a kind of awkward spot, at least for an Obs ward, right? You'd expect or not expect but not be surprised if you saw a sentry here. Obs ward's a bit of a funky one. It's already paid for itself, though. That kill, very much worth the ward, and that's Boots of Travel. Finished off on Speed. That's BKB. Finished off on your Shadow Fiend. DNM. Working towards a BKB of his own, but he just got a Maelstrom a few minutes back, so the item progression for 5 Rats starting to come online. They haven't pulled away by a massive amount ET, but 2k at 20 minutes is still pretty good for them. AB1, though, he's going to get picked, but DNM's looking for a fight, and he's going to find it. Chrono down. Macro Pyre was deployed. I'm not sure if it was actually hitting onto LTH there, but doesn't matter. They're going to find the kill. They're going to get a second there as well as Merlin comes over to help, and that is Chrono used, but it's a 2-for-1 trade that gets them into the Roche pit.
Yeah, just free play. Of course, you have the presence of the Dark Lord, reducing the Roche's armor, so this is already a very fast Roche, but Arcane Rune helps as well. Just your casual 4 or 5 stacks of Shadow Rays debuff, and SG, they'll become aware of this. Probably going to maybe inch a little bit closer, but then you realize that it's just a little bit too late. Do get a bottled DD rune on the Ember Spirit, so maybe something that you're able to play around here, but SG not really finding the easy plays to make their lives any easier here. Kind of slowing down kill-wise as well as this mid-game has gotten underway. Do have a BKB, though, on KXY, but okay, get scouted out here, get immediately afraid of LTH. Time for them to make a play, though. Anything is going to make that timing for Yuma feel a lot easier to play around, because, of course, you get Mantis style, you get a BKB, get an Aghanim Scepter, and then suddenly DNM is the one in that hot seat where he is no longer a right-clicker. He is just a chrono machine, and then he's going to need the rest of the lineup to carry him.
Gets hit up by the Searing Chains there in the middle lane, but KXY doesn't really want to force that fight. Don't think he really has enough to take Shadow Fiend from 100 to 0 to burn the Aegis, so he's got to kind of back out for now. He does have a BKB at least, so the damage is going to be a little bit more gradual, but with the magic immunity, that could still work in their favor as Oscar. Well, now they know you onslaughted up here. And they are going to jump in onto him. They clip him with the stun. They drop the Macro Pyre. They cancel out his Pulverize. Prada, welcome to the fight. You do not want to be here. Although with Yuma coming in, maybe they try and force this. But Kits, he's going to channel out the Requiem. It doesn't hit onto Yuma, but it should allow them to finish off the Dawnbreaker. And actually still got the double stun in. Yuma's going to get locked down. He's trying to shift towards strength. He'll waveform himself out, so he's not dead yet. LTH dropped down the Terrorize as well. That is giving KXY a little bit of room to operate here, and he will take out both of the supports. He has to be so unbelievably careful because DNM is still pushing in. Speed gets down the stun. They'll take out both. And that's a full 5-man wipe. And SG, I don't know. I mean, they had Speed in their sights. They did not kill him, but then they go in as if he weren't there anymore.
Yeah, and the reason they press for that fight so much is because there's no chrono. They know that they shouldn't have to worry about the Faceless Void, but then you realize that aside from the Requiem, they still have Epicenter. They still have a lot of spells. They still have so much left of the tank, and really, I think the big issue there is thinking that Oscar could get his BKB off, because the entire reason that Prada goes in is assuming this Primal Beast is not going to go down, and then he can play for the Primal Beast getting pulverized off, and then turning the fight around, but instead, they just go in one after another, and that was with BKB on your Ember Spirit and a bottled DD rune. You're not really going to get a better instance than that to turn this game around. And then you just get right-clicked to death by the Shadow Fiend, because he can do that too. It really isn't that big of an issue for him. And now, probably smoke again from 5-Rat, because it's chrono time. Time to look for more core kills.
They're going to run right into, well, Prada at the moment. As kits, yeah, there's sentries. But Prada, well, he might still be in some trouble. Merlin's going to try and track the kill down. There's going to be the Starstorm. Should be able to get it. But over to the east, a bigger fight's breaking out. Chrono deployed. Speed is going to get stunned, but who cares? He's in the Chrono. He's actually safe for now. It's LTH and Yuma who will go down, and Oscar now has to use his BKB, but he's going to get bashed. That's the luck of the draw right there, as Oscar is not getting himself out. That is 4 more kills for a Chronosphere ET. And they don't even kill the Sand King that they were trying to kill in the first place.
Yeah, no, DNM's feeling himself. That was a fantastic chrono. Just perfectly placed. Doesn't let himself get stunned either by the Cursed Crown. Doesn't even pop his BKB because he knows his opponents are dead to rights there. And you see how confident 5-Rat can take those team fights knowing that the Solar Guardian's off the table. The Dawnbreaker cannot help you in the slightest. And they're just starting to hemorrhage levels and hemorrhage these kills. Aegis is going to get timed out in a minute here, but 5-Rat are in such a great position. And now they're finishing off a lot of these defensive items. They're getting a BKB on the Sand King. They already have quite few of those items that just are going to let you ignore what SG are trying to do. Even DNM is turning his build around to just get a Lincoln Sphere, saying that, oh, okay, well, if you're going to get the Aghanim Scepter on Morphin, that's the only way you win. Well, pop my Lincolns. You can't. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to get any sort of morph play onto him, and I mean, what's the only other initiation they've got at this point? It's been a lot of pulverizes out from Oscar, but between BKB and Lincoln's, you know, that's not really going to help either. The Curse Crown could even be, could be blocked by that Lincoln Sphere too. So now you look at the SG lineup and you start to wonder who goes in, who starts these fights, what's the initiation? Because, well, they're looking for Solar Guardian plays ET, but that necessitates someone basically intentionally putting themselves in the line of fire first.
Yeah, and now, maybe one, having the vision, so much real estate that they get to play around here. Actually need to smoke up, and they will do so just to try and get themselves back out onto the map, but I don't know if they can afford too many more messy team fight losses here. And they will try to claim this high ground, but still very scary. LTH does have a blink though, so the Dark Blow can at least claim some of this area with pretty decent confidence, but aside from that hero, nobody else can really make that play.
This is taking a little bit too long though. DNM's going to have Chrono back up in 5, and then if you don't account for him in your initiation, you could quite easily get turned on. Scan? Just hit mid, so they know something's here. It's KXY who's kind of hiding in the trees, but he's going to be able to stay away for now. No, he's not. Speed's in. There's going to be the first stun. The Macropyre's down. The Ice Path is in. The right clicks will connect. That is a hero you really could not afford to lose there.
No, and now time to aggress onto the mid lane. You know there's no glyph. You know it's not going to get refreshed either, so you really have no qualms here. Killing this tier 2, and, well, you've got everything. That was the cheapest kill in the world. The only thing you might not have is Macropyre, but hey, you don't really mind too much here in LTH. Well, TPing in front of a Sand King. Yeah, the jig is up, bud.
Doesn't want to use his ult for this. He's got Blink back up in like 2 seconds, so
Well, that's
he's...
the H does too.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't matter.
Try to make a break for it. I mean, that's really the only play he has available. But while that happens, oh, that's a tier 3 tower gone. Arrow misses onto Prada. I do believe Yuma got out there to take a tier 1 tower up in the top lane, but it's a minimal amount of gold considering your own base just got kind of worked over. They didn't get the melee racks, but it's only because they were taking the easier objective and backing away, but they back away with a 14k lead.
Yep, and now we might see 5-Rat just decide to deward all of this area on their way back to the pit, but do have to be careful here, especially Merlin and Speed. Sticking a little bit too close to these cores right now. To see them get punished, but
Speed's gonna go for it. Oh, he misses! He misses with the stun, so KXY is just gonna walk out and... Wow. Speed's just kind of off the mark there, and it does cost him a little bit. At least it's only the Mirana who dies. Speed himself isn't punished for that, but now DNM. He's got the Chrono. Can he find the targets? Yuma and KXY are kind of hanging out on the ramp, but that's a little too far for the Faceless Void to try.
That's probably the least sneaky play ever, just because they've already got the ward sentry, and
Yeah.
It's tough. But as for Roche, minute 10, I mean, that's pretty darn soon here. And SG will have to come and fight you, and you'll say, well, do you have enough to fight us? Well, let's see, because one more Aegis for Kits, and I think you're going to run out of base before he's going to be done with you. And at the end of the day, even though it was definitely a misplay from Speed, all you used was BKB on the Shadow Fiend and maybe, betting Merlin's life. But for SG, at least with this timing, are able to finish up some of their important items. The Ags is finally done on that Morphling. Still wonder if he's going to even just risk it and go for somebody else, or if he feels like he has to become the Sand King at this point because of how little team fight they do have. But nobody else is growing. Everybody else is pretty much stagnated. Nobody else has been able to get onto the map. In 20 seconds, it's where the entire map is going to refocus, and SG have to check it.
Merlin. Okay. That's a Vlad's pickup for the Mirana, so just starting to sort of shift into a utility build. That does mean the damage coming out from this Mirana is kind of not really going to be increasing significantly, but ET, it's position for Mirana. How much damage were you expecting from her in the first place, right?
Yeah, no. As long as he has control and as long as he gets what he needs, then they're going to be happy. And with that, Roche respawns. They do see the Mirana walking near the pit, though, so maybe a slight inclination as to this Roshan being alive, but for SG, not batting an eye. Decide to sell their items. Oscar has a Blink Dagger now, but the Aegis will be claimed.
And DNM, does he just go for the Shard too? Because he could get the reverse Time Walk here. What, boys, what are we doing? Just littering. Dropping crap in the pit. Well, at the end of all of that, ET, with all those items shuffled, I actually don't know who has the there we go. It made its way into DNM's hands.
Yeah, the Faceless Void's capable hands. No, it was a little bit messy. I think Kits also is maybe joking around, being jovial, saying, oh, I want it. What are you doing? Let me have it. But onto the high ground. Now, the SF doesn't have the Aegis this time around, however, so your Sieger will have to be a little bit careful. Does have that Lincoln's gifted to him from DNM, but misses the jump again, and on the backline, LTH, huge.
Okay. No, Yuma's gonna jump in, looking for something. Damage is not great, and there's gonna be the Chrono into the Macro Power. They've got it. Solar Guardian is going to help, though, so Yuma's not dead yet, but he's still stunned, and he is going to go down. They lost Yuma, they lost Prada. Prada buys back, Yuma doesn't have it available, so SG, you can't take this fight anymore. They just have to pull back with what they have left. That means they have to sacrifice at least the middle lane of Rax and 5-Rat. Do they go for the other lanes, or do they look for the win? Looks like they'll make the safer play.
There is a glyph, though, I'm going to be cautious of, but they also should be very aware that Yuma doesn't have buyback on the Morphling. He only just barely had enough gold for that Aghanim Scepter. We should know that, well, this is just doomsday time for them. It's 2 racks easy, as she might have a slightly better contest for the third, unless your Dawnbreaker goes down, and they will fight for it, but barely able to walk this one out. Kits, though,
Oh
yeah,
my god.
well,
And they get the Ice Path down onto LTH, so the Dark Willow's pushed back. They really care more about the racks than that kill, but now DNM is going forward speed. You got the stun onto KXY. There's going to be the arrow coming in as well. They need to be able to focus this down. They are getting a little bit preoccupied, though, as Oscar did get a pulverize in, but it doesn't matter. KXY still falls. He's going to buy back immediately, however, pushing back onto the front line because DNM lost his Aegis. He's rooted up, but he's still able to time walk himself out. And now SG, they need some sort of miracle, but Speed says, no miracle for you. I'm in onto the kill. KXY dead. Yuma going to try and fight this up really by himself, but they got the Spirit Vessel onto him, so he's not even going to be regenning as much as he wants, as Oscar just made a desperation play on the back line. Not going to work. Kits takes him down, and it is Yuma against the world. Can he do it? No. No, he can't. Absolutely not. There's the GG called. And 5 Rat, 4 Staff ET. Well, I don't know if we want to say they win so much as they survive, because this series was not easy, but they take it 3-2.
no, it was an absolute dogfight, just constantly running at each other, just making all sorts of errors along the way. Honestly, both sides just not having the cleanest Dota in the entire world, but yeah, in typical best of 5 fashion, you know, everything is just building, 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 and then the final game is over in 30 minutes because everybody just wants to go to sleep because this is quite the slog, and especially for SG, you know, 8th game of the day, really just trenched through the mud, just was unable, I think, to keep a lot of things together here. And in their final lanes, I mean, KXY ends up having to lane Ember versus SF, you know, and then 5rat, they use their advantage, you know, and they don't even win every time they have that pick advantage, but it ends up not mattering. And I think 5rat now looking at that main season with Merlin as the pickup, looking absolutely fantastic as a lineup. And of course, now you're not done yet. Get out your notebooks, look at the LPQ, because, well, last chance qualifier, it's time for you to sit down, study some teams, study some games. Oh, this is just the first of many hours of Dota for these players.
I don't know. Maybe both teams thinking we could skip one day, or you know, or no, we'll watch the VODs in the morning. That'll be the excuse. You know, first thing tomorrow morning, we'll watch all the VODs from LCQ. And right now we're going to go to sleep because 5rat, I mean, they play a full 5, but as you said, SG, they played 8 games today. We started at 11 in the morning Pacific time. It is now very nearly 10 o'clock, so it's been a hell of a day for SG. It's just unfortunate for them that they come up short, and I think really, ET, if you want something to fully encapsulate the idea that SG ran out of gas, Yuma had no kills. When was the last time, even in their worst loss, when was the last time you saw Yuma get 0 kills in a game?
Yeah, no, it's just sad stuff. Because this is the Yuma Morphling as well. That's, you know, it's so hyped up, it's so ready to go. But then 5rat also just turn a genius, you know, they go for the Sand King pickup. That also looks pretty great. Merlin finds his groove with the Mirana, and AB1 continues to play Jakiro. But I think this team really found something special here, and we'll have to see again, looking towards that next season. Of course, they're going to be kind of looking for a new opponent now to beat up, but in this series, at the very least, they were definitively better than SG. But man, oh man, those games, especially in the middle, going as long as they are, whew, need a little bit of a break now.
Tests the old mental fortitude there, and we're just the ones casting it. We're feeling tired, ET. Can't imagine how exhausted the players are through all of that as well. But for 5rat at least, it all pays off, and at this point, ET, you know, we're going to be hopping out of here in really just a little bit. But I do want to ask you, looking at the event as a whole here, 5rat, SG look good. We talked earlier today about Wolf Team making top 3 as well. But other than maybe some of those top level points, what else are you taking away from Pro Series?
Ooh, probably the easy takeaway is RCY. Take a look at this kid. See how long he stays on Dog Champ. That might just be the new kind of stand-in to wipe the floor with the rest of NA being the old guys that they are at this point. But I think RCY is probably the big shout out that anybody could possibly give and anybody could really hope for. Just a young kid out of Illinois, plays some great heroes, plays some fantastic Dota. See if you can get this man on maybe some new rosters or even just see what he's able to do with his current roster, because I feel like he is in a spot to really do something special here for the scene.
Yeah, this whole event was just his coming out party, basically. Just unbelievable performances, and it mirrors a little bit what we saw when Stonebank first sort of started coming onto the NA scene as well. So now they've got two guys who are on the verge, I would say, of that sort of kind of star status. I don't quite know if they're there yet because DogChamp is still a team struggling to separate itself in that second tier of squads in NA. So if they continue on the trajectory that they are now, I don't think anyone's going to be able to argue against superstar status for either one of them.
Yeah, but also, you gotta say Five Rat, they did it. They
Mm-hmm.
look great. They're new additions. Kit's really slotting into the lineup fantastically. Other than that, I don't think you could say too many other squads would have that similar performance coming in with what is effectively two new players, but also even Speed himself, man. I mean, that guy is just a boss in the off lane. You got to take a look at these players who only, I think, just now in the past 6 months or whatever, are starting to get back into Pro Dota. I mean, NA's brightening up a little bit, and maybe that's some copium, but we'll see. We'll see.
We're getting some new faces in NA altogether, and then some other faces that aren't new to the community, but maybe new to the competitive side of things, right? Guys like Speed, they weren't entirely unknown. It's just he hadn't had too many opportunities to play at the professional level, and now here he is, champion Pro Series 12. So get some new blood in there in the NA scene. Can't ever really argue too much against that. It's kind of needed at this point. But, well, that is pretty much it. I think at this point, we're just kind of starting to ramble, ET. So we are going to try and shut it down here in the next couple of minutes. So thank you to everybody for coming and hanging out with us. If you're still here instead of over at LCQ, or maybe you've got us on the second monitor, we appreciate it all the same. The plan was to try and squeak in before LCQ started, and obviously with 8 games today, that didn't really go the way we thought it would, but appreciate you all staying with us anyway. Thank you to BTS for putting this all together. Thank you to HyperX for sponsoring the whole event and not sending me nasty emails because we do the ad reads really poorly, ET, but that is it. So, well, one last words, I guess, at this point.
TI time. I'll see you guys there, right? No,
Oh,
no, we
no.
won't see you there, but maybe next year. Maybe next year.
But yeah, one last time, thank you all so much for watching and sticking around. Go check out that last chance qualifier support all of the teams fighting for those spots in TI. And then one last time, congratulations to 5RAT 4 staff. They are your Pro Series 12 America's champions. We will see you all another time on Beyond the Summit. See you later.
Oh, it's on tonight. Throw that thing from left, right, side to side. Yeah. All my friends are here. Play my favorite song right on top. Yeah. And we never stop. Music bumping, we just keep on rolling. Yeah. No, we never stop. Shake, shake, shake your honey till the morning. Let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on. Now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on. Now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Yeah. I said I wanna see you slide, slide, slide. I said I wanna see you shine, shine, shine. Oh, it's on tonight. Throw that thing from left, right, shake your honey till the morning. Oh, let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on, now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on, now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Yeah, I said I wanna be a slide, slide, slide. Yeah, come on now, now, now. I said I wanna be a shine, shine, shine. I wanna see ya. Oh, I wanna see you. So let me hear you say. I said I wanna see you slide, slide, slide. I said I wanna see you shine, shine, shine. Let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on, now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star. Let me hear you say I'm ready. I'm ready. Come on, now slide, slide, slide to the bar. Shine, shine, shine like a star.
Stepping out, it's Friday night. How I'm longing for this day. Yes, I'm single, oh, we want to mingle, and my friends are on the way. You got that good, good vibe. I want to spend some time back here with you. Oh, whoa. I got that good old times. You want to spend some time back here with me. Oh, whoa. And time after time, I am wondering who is she to me. I'm gonna tell you right now, 'cause